Oh, everyone. Yes, it has been some time. Summer gets in the way. I'm out there enjoying life and living life, as they say. And not a lot of time I'm spending doing videos, or do I have time? But it's also coupled with the fact that I have been entertaining the concept of bills of exchange. Have I had successes? Yes. Did I write things off? Yes. Did I even make computer or consumer purchases through a private deal with a bills of exchange? Yes. Subsequently, after 20 days, and it was accepted during that 20 days, after a 15-day hold, um, and everything was transferred. The bank then came back and said, "No, we're going to confiscate that amount we transferred." And listen to my words here. We deposited a bills of exchange, and which is a credit. We are creditors. All corporations, banks, and so forth are debtors, and they accepted the credit, and then which essentially probably happened, through the using their their central banking system in order to establish a fractionalized amount representing the credit, and then using that fractionalized amount to then have that transferred, not deposited, because again, we deposit the credit, they don't deposit, they transfer a fractionalized amount into the account holder and then have rights over that amount, not the credit. And so now they've come back and said, oh no, we don't accept it. And we've confiscated, as such, the deal that we once made and considered an agreement based on our inner workings and our inner agreements between our bank and the central banking system. Well, guess what, Cupcake? We're not sitting at the board table. We're not in the back room sniffing, coke off a hooker's butt. Whatever you guys do in the back room, we're not doing that. So um, we're no party of interest. Our party of interest is the credit, the bills of exchange, the law, and you guys are coming in under policy and thinking you can overreach our rights. So now I'm engaged in dealing with that matter. To which, hey, we've got to train these banks, and that's what I'm doing. I'm dealing with lawyer firms. I'm I'm all in, baby. I'm dealing with lawyer firms. I'm dealing with utility companies, banks, credit companies. And other institutions, as well as private dealings I've just mentioned. That dealing was just to purchase through a private dealing, with for a Harley Davidson 2007 big mofo of a bike that I've been riding around. So what we're doing, everything's an opportunity. It's not to get upset, not to tear your hair out and saying what the hell are these guys doing. It is about comprehending first what law is, what your rights are, to which they do not have those same rights. Okay, as we have learned in the English law series, they are given oaths to certain confinements, which under law would be prohibitions and limitations, and they're confined to that, and that's how they react. It's like, if you it's like walking around a rattlesnake. Rattlesnake's just going to protect its area of knowledge, but it can't ever expand or ever threaten when it's outside of its reach. And that's what we are. We are learning that we are, of course, outside the reach, and we have rights as a tenant for life, which is essentially the beneficiary of our legal estate, to which we use the equitable interest that then, as we are learning, the government has received a grant under patent to use that beneficial interest and then award that through their own creation of legal estates to make that available in piecemeal form to citizenry. If you're a citizen, well, I'm sorry for you, but right now, as we're learning, your property is not the idea of ownership you think it is. It gives you rights to an action for that interest, operated and administrated through the device of government, which means you're using a third level of use to to a land, to an estate interest, to which now is moving to the fourth level as we move from the trust for sale, which consequently was beginning its dissolution when we got into 1997, and they brought in the Trust of Land and Trustee Act, and that is their preponderance of evidence. They're moving to the fourth level, called a Trust of Land Agreement, moved from the Trust of Sale of 1925, to which most people made the purchases under, and now giving full power to the trustees to manage those interests that have not been properly removed, or, how as I like to say, vested in the individual who has the first right through the birth. And that creates the beginnings of notice of the legal estate, to which then creates a beneficial interest, and to which then is established the birth certificate, which is the token or the vehicle in which you allow yourself to discharge against, because it's the government entity that's in debt and knows it is in debt and is seeking for you to create the credit through your estate. But as we have come to know, and as we see everywhere, everyone is just using the debt-based currency. You know, the best way to nail it down, if anyone seen proper money mechanics, or I don't know, I forget what video it was, and it was displaying sort of the underpinning of how we advance in the money system, and they've shown this vault, if you will, that was able to be held their people's gold in the interest of carrying, instead of carrying it around. And they then established, well, if you put gold in our vault, we'll create a script to prove that you have that. So when you're ready, you can come back for that. But what had happened is people just kept on using the script because it was just easier to trade than the gold and holding gold in our pockets. And so over time, the vault controller, the vault holder, realized that people weren't coming in for their gold. They were happy using the script paper, and thereby they said, well, hey, why don't we just create our own script? And no one's ever checking the vault, so we'll just create, we'll fractionalize it, to which is our banking today. They take the credit and they'll fractionalize it by 9 times. People are now saying even up to 12. I think some of the credit unions maybe use 7 times, but whatever it is, they're just creating additional script upon that which is against the credit, but only holding 10% of that value as credit. So they don't have that entire value. So we then use that script paper, which is just a fractionalized, a fiat version, to trade along with commerce, because that's the easy way to do it. But we're never discharging and going back and dealing with our credit. And that's essentially what's really going on in the entire banking system. So no one's doing anything wrong. I mean, the bank is operating what it's supposed to do, is allowing for corporations to finance themselves through debt, because they can't create credit. We are the only ones. We have to get through our head to create credit. Now here I've gone on in a grand introduction, but really the purpose of this video was to discuss a very colorful character by the name of Brandon Joe Williams, who has put his own series together. And my interest, he was speaking or alluding to the fact that he is dealing with bills of exchange. So I want to hear some other means in which these characters, use bills of exchange, and where they're getting their power from. And generally, what they get the power from is, again, under the patriotism, constitutional movement, 1776, War Republic, all those sorts of things. And then to bring in UCC or USC rules, whatever codes that then give the definitions of what bills of exchange are, and what negotiable instruments are, and what money is, and those kind of things, and what promissory notes are. And then they're going into an intercourse, and they intercourse with banks and credit companies, and private purchases and those kind of things, using the laws under the Constitution. Now, if we have already garnered here use the Constitution. Now you're subject to their rules, and you are going to be bent over and not only shove the cucumber, as Brandon Joe likes to say, in the grocery store, but now you're getting a full zucchini and maybe a cabbage head as well, as they spank you along um, with enough rope that if you bring it to court, you will eventually hang yourself, and definitely will never win in appeal court because you're not using succinctly law that we're learning. You're not using your full power. You're not using the English common law, which is your dominion, where your dominion is separated from, to then uh, move into the English common law, which only deals with estates and land, okay? And then to which, if you become a party to an estate and land, now you create an obligation to which that obligation and that agreement overreaches your dominion rights. So when you come in and anyone comes in and say, I am man, I'm the living man, well, you've already commingled, as we are learning, the fact that yes, we know you're living. It's nonsensical. It's ridiculous when we really think about it. To think that you got to first determine you're a living man when everybody else is living, for the very fact that you're speaking to them, and you're trying to bring in that mode and then bring in elements of common law, but then you're stuck in in territorial customary law, which is that under Constitution, and then you're imbibing concepts of equity, and then pretty much you're going to walk before an honorable judge or a learned judge who's going to say, yeah, the second you start commingling, he's going to throw your ass back into kindergarten because you're a ward of the court and you're not dealing effectively with who you truly are. Now, Brandon Joe Williams, someone sent me his material, how he sets things up. He's under his website. I think it's One Stupid Fuck. I mean, we're all one stupid fuck when we cohesively, when we're trying to deal with matters that we yet comprehend of what law is, what government is, and what money is. And albeit Brandon does have a basic concept of what money is, but if you don't have the other elements of what law is and what government is, you are truly still not understanding what money is, because you're still using UCC rules, you're still putting yourself into their jurisdiction, and you're trying to, create conversation with these entities as a corporate entity yourself. You're never a living man. You always have to be a corporate entity because you're not seen. If you want to be discussed or be seen in their system, you have to be using the corporate entity, which is the all caps name, the government name, the debtor, in order to use that vehicle is like a token on the monopoly board to be able to be in play. Okay, now I enjoy Brandon's material. He's quite the character. He doesn't take himself too seriously. He is embarking on much of the same stuff we embarked way back, 20 years ago and stuff like that. We dealt with all this kind of stuff. A for V, that sort of idea. And then we commingled a lot of things. And, I think I think that at that time as well, I was thinking, hey, man, I sound great. I'm making these self-determinations, and these guys are going to listen, and I'm going to throw in a bunch of codes and statutes and so forth too. And I'm going to give you 500 pages of definitions, and you're going to be overwhelmed with how much knowledge I have. Well, the fact is, I can shoot it all down in a page. That's law. That's what we need to get back to. So the purpose of this video was just essentially, what you have to do is, if you want to learn about bills of exchange and get into his advanced courses, you got to allow him to fill your inbox full of over 30 different videos of how he describes what the system is. Okay, well, I already knew where he was coming from. I already knew he doesn't understand what law is, and therefore he's going to embark on the same journey as most of the freemen, sovereign, constitutionalist, free man, all my rights, people, which is, depends if, you get into whatever court you get into, you might make some wins, you might own the turd, but you're still in the cesspool, okay? You might command the turd for your own turd for the day, but it's always going to be overreached by appeals. And that's why I even said at the beginning, when I heard Jordan Peterson, it's a well-known name being circulated in our groups, whereby he's speaking against Trudeau, and he's speaking against the about the injuries that have accumulated, and the whole scandemic and so forth, and they're going against him, to which where he's making an argument that he has the freedom of speech, and I already knew he was going to lose, and he did. Same with author Parlowski or something like that, Alberta, who tried to continue to even Tamara Lynch. I mean, all these people, they're arguing within the system, and they're not knowing that they're actually giving the system the power that they're arguing against, whereby now that power is already moving towards dissolve this trust for sale and moving to the fourth level of trust. You're not going to win in there because the momentum has to, or the system has to end where it was always established and centuries ago. So all you're doing is giving them more power when you're arguing their concepts to then validate their concepts that then allow them to continue to move on with their agenda. You're not going to win. All your protests, yeah, it's good to bring, they bring awareness, okay, to think more so than what's told, in the idiot box, or what's presented through government and their agencies and the alphabet companies. Okay, yes, it's bringing awareness, but you're not doing anything in protest. You're not doing anything by going into courts and arguing these matters. You always will lose in the end. You're not going to gain anything. You're only gaining, like I said, a moment of commanding a turd for a day, but you're still on a turd and you're still in the cesspool nonetheless. And you're never on the proper earth. You're never speaking from your full dominion. You're never speaking with your full right, and you're not using English common law effectively. So he goes on, and let me just see if I can go to his video. So, anyways, you have to allow him to fill your mailbox full of his 30-something videos, to which, again, I already knew them. And yes, I garner information and knowledge from everyone, whether it's good, whether it's irrelevant information, whether it is good information. There's nuggets in everything. Okay, I listen to everyone, but I immediately know from the character where he's coming from whether or not he's speaking to law. He knows what law is, and Brandon doesn't, as most. So it's not an attack against him. Okay, I wouldn't want to make that. I enjoy the character. I think he's got a good heart. I think he's in the right place of wanting to help people. He's dishing this out for free. He's spent his time, his energy. He's had successes, and I think he's genuine. Okay, and I enjoy his character. He's a phenomenal orator, which, as you've gone through some of my courses, I am not, but that's not. It's just really what I do. Is just I need to get the information out, and then for you to then take my information and then go study for yourself whether I'm correct or not. I mean, I'm using law. I'm using Bracton and Maitland and Blackstone and Cook, and I'm using historians like Putney and Pollard. I'm using Harvard University. I'm using Cambridge. I'm using institutions and articles and case law that then establish the points that allow you to investigate to see whether I'm out in left field or I am actually on point. I'm only discussing law, and if you discuss law, then you understand power. Now, if I look at it, this is his advanced course. So this is what I've been waiting for, because I wanted, again, I was more importantly dealing with bills of exchange. I wanted to hear some more information because maybe, like I said, I can garner some nuggets and say, hey, that's a good point. Let me jump on that and use that. And his second video, advanced course, I don't think I can share. I shouldn't share. Again, it's an advanced course, so I should, I like to be, how would you say, keep towards the agreement that they have made with me, and then honor that agreement. And the advanced course is only given to you once you've gone through his other courses, so he doesn't waste your time with stupid questions, like he likes to say. And he doesn't got fucking time for that, nor do I got a lot of time for that. But that if you go through his regular courses, and when you get to the advanced courses, you're not going to come out and talk or speak to things that he's already covered. So the advanced course is about advance course to conditional acceptance to AMEX after reported discharge debt as unpaid. So apparently he discharged the debt. AMEX is saying, no, you haven't, because if you had, they're not going to be speaking to you. And so now he's got to deal with the legal department, and he's got to deal. He's including the Attorney General of California, even the Sheriff Department in New York, to where I guess this conditional acceptance that he's wrote that is going to be sent to, which is a party to a collection agency of Amex. And so what's happening here? I'm going to generally just tell you the basis of what's happening, and I see it happen all the time. You get something discharged, and it's done. And then they try to recontract with you. And when they recontract, it creates a new agreement. And as soon as you start arguing with that agreement or that new contract, now you've just you open Pandora's box for them to re-enter. You've got to go back to just one point. It's discharge. See? It's simple. We don't need to write 500 fucking volumes on how great we are and how we make new definitions. And that's another thing. He makes new definitions on here. You don't need to. Law settled, and if you that's the problem. When you don't have the law, you have to make these self-determinations, and you have to make new definitions. That's all for lawyers. You're giving lawyers an arm to come in and reach in and pull out and argue and debate little sentences and periods and who dotted the I correctly and who crossed the T incorrectly. You're just giving options now for lawyers to enter. And once you got the mouthpieces involved, you're fucked. You'll be dancing around in their circle jerk for a while, and that's what they love. And you're just creating business. Essentially, you're creating business for the courts. You're not doing anything more than harm your own self, and that's what they love. It's a joke. It's a game to them. They're getting you to move that piece around the monopoly board, and they're holding Boardwalk and Park Place, and then they know you're going to land on it. And then boom, that discharge is a second feature now. Now we're not even talking about the discharge. See, that's what they do. It's the magician trick. Watch my right hand, and they've got you. And the left hand is creating all these errors, or all these areas, not errors, but all these areas where you think they are errors. Whereby you're by your very own notice action to get involved in it, automatically puts you back into their system, and you are getting royally fucked with a cucumber and a zucchini and a head of cabbage. Okay, you're getting spanked. You're getting passed around like a party favor, and that's what Brandon Joe, and he uses Brandon hyphen Joe Williams. Sometimes Williams is full colon, and is a colon because that's what you're going to get. That's what they're going to insert into, because you are not understanding, comprehending what you did. You're not staying with the discharge. You're not standing on what law is. You're not using your full dominion. You're not using your proper trust in the means as a tenant for life, as a beneficiary. You're using it under some ambiguity, which then invites equity, which brings in a chancellor, which brings in a single judge to make a determination on. And if he makes determination on what you've written here, the discharge is irrelevant. You'll get caught up in the cesspool of irrelevancy, and then you're going to be going, there's no, they've circled, you've been unjustly handled. They're not speaking to what your matter is here, and you're going to think that you've got a right to appeal, and then you're going to bring these facts in, and the appeal judge is going to say, no, judge in error. He spoke exclusively he made an order and determination based on what you're discussing here, not speaking and not staying directly with law. If you stuck directly with law, you have a point of law appeal, and if the judge errs, he's going to err on law. So what's the problem? Let him err. If you got law, let the judge allow him to step through that trapdoor. Let him make an error on law, but you're allowing it to to manifest and metastasize into a whole document of a diatribe of feelings and emotions. First of all, you, law has nothing to do with feelings and emotions. Are purgatory words. You're not supposed to be using those. You're supposed to be using, as a man, if you want to be recognized as a man, the law. So speak to the law. Don't speak about all a fluff piece. I'm sorry, that's what it is, Brandon. It's a fluff piece of all your of how you think that you should skip through the daisies, and everybody just think that your farts smell like fruity cucumber. Um, you're you're going to create, and you are creating, and you're not going to. You have created a ability for mouthpieces to come in and spank your ass. And right here, as people have learned through my English law series, I'm just, why am I having a problem here? There we go. And for those people who've done my English law series, you'll hear right in the very first, he's got a conditional acceptance. First of all, you should just do a consent order. Okay, consent order, discharge on this date. I use proper law, bills of exchange, and if you want to use your UCC rules as a main on a constitutional, that's the way it comes in. Stick with that. That's it. Bang, 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 and then you would then put a consent order of all the agreements on, and that's it. And if they can't disagree with any one of those things, well, then you won. See, then you just bring that to court. You don't get into this long-winded fluff piece that brings in arguments are frivolous, and you are going to bring an entry point for a judge to make a determination based on the matter you bring in here and not the discharge. Okay, so conditional acceptance was just back in December 11th, 2022. Like I said, he included a lawyer. He included the California Attorney General, the heads of this corporate accounting set up to collect on behalf of AMEX, and he's also included a sheriff in New York. So he's got all these things, and it sounds great, but that's about it. So he's got from Brandon-Joe : family of Williams, beneficiary, trustor, and secured party to the Social Security Cestui Trust, and then he writes in all caps, Brandon Joe Williams, trademark pending, okay, without prejudice. I'm telling you right now, as Brandon alludes to, and again, I didn't listen to the entirely, I already knew minute that I saw the very first piece, and where Brandon believes that it's such a great masterpiece of literary genius that they're not going to throw this thing in the trash. Well, I'll tell you what, I would throw that into trash automatically. I wouldn't. There's no need to read this. Okay, I mean, the very fact is you're bringing in matters of trying to establish a common law, which is the English common law. Then you bring in equity as a beneficiary. Then you bring in as trustor. In what capacity? We should be executor if you're dealing with a beneficiary status, to which then you have a right against the trustee, but you're not arguing against the trustee, so that's irrelevant. And secured party to the Social Security. Well, secured party to the Social Security, what? The exemption of that right in order to establish bills of exchange. And then you bring in the Cestui Trust, Brandon Joe Williams. Well, the Cestui Trust is a beneficiary, as is a beneficiary of the Cestui Trust. It's not a trust per se. The trust is under Law Property Act, trust of land. I'm sorry, not trust of land, trust for sale scheme. That is what you're dealing under, and the Cestui Trust, Brandon Joe Williams, is not recognized essentially as more so than being a beneficiary under. You do believe that you're arguing under the 1776 Constitution, so yeah, you're using the debtor in that manner and the beneficial status, but by doing so, you then eliminate the prospect of you being a man, to which at the very end of it you sign it, living man. which then brings back to the Brandon-Joe, the David Wim Miller syntax grammar bullshit that has no power. And you're bringing it back to that living man, but then you then overseed that and commingle that by trying to bring in the all caps name in the wrong capacity because you're bringing it under a constitution. I don't know if you understand all what I just said, but the entire first lines is commingled. And immediately, a learned judge is just throwing this into the trash. He's already got you here. And then you got trademark pending. What the fuck are you trying to trademark? You don't need to. It's a token. It's like you're moving a piece around the Monopoly board, and before you start getting into it and said, hey, this car here, or this top hat, whatever, you are saying, I'm going to trademark this. Well, it's already fucking trademarked. It belongs to the Monopoly game. Leave it there. You don't need to. This DBA and all this other crap, it's all fluff. It is all, the legal name fraud, all that stuff. Use it. It's a government. The government's the debtor. You're the creditor. It's just establishing who the debtor is and who the creditor is. Use it as a token. Use that, then use bills of exchange properly, and use the bills of exchange. That's it. 1882. Hereby enacted by Her Most Excellent Majesty, with the advice and consents of the Lord Spiritual and Lords Temporal and the House of Commons. Blah 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 blah. Right there. That's English common law. There's your power. As soon as you go in and you start bringing UCC rules and you start bringing constitutional arguments and you start bringing the difference between 1776 and 1871 and you bring in all this stuff, you just eliminated the living man consensually. You just eliminated your right to legal estate. You just eliminated your trust as an obligation to perform under a tenant for life in the capacity of a beneficiary. In that level, you've eliminated that. You're coming in under a trust for sale. You've engaged trustees, but now those trustees are not even there because you're not acting as a trustee, a tenant for life. So now you are now subject to a public trustee, to which now you're engaging in intercourse in that system, to which is run by lawyers and jewelry and the church and all those kind of things. So now you're going to be, again, one paddle up a stream floating on your turd. Hopefully your turd's going to, you have enough power to meet to the end to command that turd in the cesspool. Okay? And it's exactly abhorrent and ridiculous as it sounds, because, my friend, you're not doing anything here. And this whole fluff piece, okay? I'm going to call it that because feelings and emotions and precatory words and stuff like that do not establish law. And now you can come in as a ward and they're going to say, oh, that's nice. That's beautiful. So I'll tell you what we're going to do, because you said such nice words, and I'm just being facetious on a lot of things, and Brandon, I like you, enjoy you. I'm not making fun of you. Everyone's doing this on these platforms, okay? But this time what they're going to do, because you are so nice, the judge is going to be nice back. And then he's going to actually probably go down to a shop that has nice lubricant so that he's not shoving dry that cucumber up your ass and everything else. He's doing it with a little bit of lube. And maybe a lot of lube, because, you did put a nice little piece together. So I'm just telling you that you seem to have the heart of a warrior to see this thing through, but you're coming to a gunfight with some chopsticks, okay? You are just sorry. You're going to get beat. If you want to continue on your path and teaching people under the Constitution, coming under the Republic is dismantled in as much as that, you're already commingling things already, but the fact is, if you want to come in under that, then stick with just dealing with the discharge. If you discharged it, okay, and you've got the proof of the discharge, do a consent order. Stick with the matters. Don't go to everything else. Don't discuss how you think. How you like to dance through the fields of daisies and the butterflies are floating around you, and it sounds all nice. Yeah, I see that's your character, but the fact is, you're just giving a lot of entry points for them to insert all your orifices, and fill your mouth with jizz as well. You're doing that. So just stick with the facts, and if you're going to go to court, I would not bring this to court. Okay, just wouldn't. Just my advice. Stick with it. You can make it to the end. You can command that turd, and with the idea that's all you are going to do is ever command the turd. Stay with Sasha Stone. I see that you admire his work. I do too. Essentially every time he talks, I need to bring in a dictionary with me. He's a very intelligent man, but he knows nothing about law or what government is or what money is. He's just one of those guys showing that he's up in arms, and he'll bring in the pitchforks and torches on behalf, and he'll be standing beside you to go against the system, to which the system is a fiction of law. So why would you go against a fiction? You're just arguing points of a fiction. Why don't you go to the law where your power is? There is no pitchforks or need to protest in that area, because you're not dealing and not giving that fiction power. You are using the power, imbibing the power of the law, which you were born with the very moment you popped out of your mom's vagina. Okay, and as KK would say, with your twin. You can have your cake and eat it too. Apparently, sorry, I digress there in being again, combative in some sense. Come on, guys. I know these guys who listen to this. I'm just having fun, and I just want to, touch on this. I'm dealing with bills of exchange. I'm only going to deal with law. I will win every single time. You know what time I'll lose? It'll be my fault. Okay? It's always going to be my fault, because I have not done my due diligence in order to get the matter settled, because I can only be who I am at all times, and that is my obligation to perform a duty as under the capacity of a tenant for life, which is established as a beneficiary. And if I'm not doing that correctly, of course I'm going to come across people that are ignorant of what I just said. That's the system. I get it. Lawyers won't even know what I'm talking about. A lot of lower court judges won't have a clue. I get that. But if I do my due diligence, stay with the law, then they always have to fight me against the law. And that's where they will err. And guess what? And I'm going to go to the final point here. As I've already said, they're going to err. They're going to err on law. So I'm forcing the judge into checkmate. I'm forcing them to make an error in law. Okay, they won't err in facts, because they're going to teach you the exact same way that you're coming in as. Okay, you won't err. You'll hardly ever get him to err on facts, because he's going to, based on your commingling here, you've lost. He will never err on this. He'll only err on law, and only if you bring in the law and stick with the law. To which then, if you are finding yourself to next looking to appeal, then you better be only using law, because that's what the appeal court will look at. Here's the law, it's settled. Yeah, he's dealt with the test. They use test in law. You go bango, 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 boom, it's done. And the appeal court's going to love you, because you're going to write this all in one page, maybe a page and a half, whatever. You're just going to speak the law, and you're going to say, here's where the judge erred. It's easy, but you're not going to win on this. Sorry. Love you, man. Keep up the good work in regards to trying to help people navigate through and swim through the cesspool, and while trying to hold their nose and breath at the same time. But I think with your heart and your intelligence and your ability to orate, you're going to be able to, if you comprehend and start understanding, to what law is, you are going to be a great speaker on that point. Way better orator than I am currently, but hey, I'm only going to get better. And so, best wishes for you. And hey, have yourself a great and wonderful day and full of opportunities. That's all you're ever going to have. Full of opportunities for you to correct.